Good morning, everybody. This is Diggs. It's another beautiful day out here in the Pacific Northwest, and today we're going to be talking about whether or not it's worth it to pull Aranea. There is a lot of units coming out in the near future that counter Aranea, and there is a lot of units that also, while seemingly are weak to Aranea, are potentially units that are going to be able to resist her attack. So I think, you know, there's a lot to talk about here. Let's go ahead and dig in. Now, unfortunately, I think for the majority of the player base, Aranea is going to be a hard skip. Personally, I plan on pulling Aranea because I run Ice Pierce comps and I love my girl Victoria, and Victoria and Aranea are going to pair really well together. But I think right now, given the current state of the meta on JP, with Setia being very dominant, which is, if you're not familiar, Setia is the Warrior of Fire or the Warrior of the Crystal with the Fire element. She is a ranged attack fire user. The winner of the second anniversary JP tournament actually won the tournament using Setia. We also have Terra, who was released on the JP side, who is a very powerful fire-based unit. So we just have a lot of fire-based units coming out on the JP side that are going to easily counter Aranea if maybe you are like wanting to invest limited resources into her, or if maybe like you are saving and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go spend on Aranea. I would encourage you to reconsider, especially since we don't know what the Christmas units are gonna be coming out. Now, a lot of people also have been asking me about Joom and how Aranea is going to be an amazing pull to counter Joom. And this is actually, I would say, not true. I actually think that there is a high possibility that Joom will be able to counter Aranea, or at least keep Aranea at bay. We do see a lot of, for example, Joom and Setia compositions, and there's a reason for that. And let's talk about Joom for a second, because Joom is, you know, a unit that has not really been, like, a lot of people are hyped for Joom, a lot of people are excited for Joom, but I think very few people actually understand Joom's kit and what Joom does. So if you aren't familiar with Joom, Joom is going to be the first Warrior of Crystal that's going to come out on the global side. She is a wind element tank-based unit. Now, she is going to be kind of, her mastery is going to have an innate ability to be targeted. She's going to have access to a lot of defense buffing abilities. And a lot of people are like, well, Aranea has a lot of defense penetration, so she's going to be really good against Joom. And, you know, she also has the elemental advantage. She's an ice elemental versus a wind elemental. And that would be true, except that Joom has one thing that basically hard counters Aranea, and that is pierce resistance. Joom has so much pierce resistance, I do believe that she can reliably counter Aranea. She has, in one of her passives, she does have access to pierce resistance plus 15%. This increases effect by 5% for each time you receive damage. So you can get up to an additional 15% pierce resistance on Joom. This also pairs with slash resistance, and it has plus defense as well. So she's not only going to have a huge amount of slash resistance, she will have pierce resistance. This is kind of bypassing any type of area resistance you do have on her. She has the capability to get protect and shell, which Aranea has no access to. A defense barrier break is another thing to consider here. She has a buff which reduces physical damage taken 30% for 3 turns to self, and she can have access to subbing Nightblade, which, if you guys aren't familiar, Nightblade does buff allies for 25% pierce resistance. So all of this is important to take into account. You also need to consider that Joom innately has a 20% pierce resistance. So all of these kind of pierce resistance buffs, these physical barriers, these are on top of the innate pierce resistance that Joom already has in her kit. This is assuming she also doesn't have any type of AoE buffs or AoE resistance buffs. There is a lot going on with Joom that makes her resistant to Aranea. And I think it's interesting because most of the time we would think, okay, Aranea, easy counter to Joom, but it's almost like Joom has been specifically tailored so that she can survive against pierce units. And this is also something to consider with Kayn coming out in the future, right? A lot of people are hyped for Kayn's EX coming out, but we also have to consider, you know, Joom's gonna be better, if not even more suited, because of the elemental like neutrality between them to counter Kayn. So it's almost like we, you know, when I look at Aranea and when I'm thinking about pulling Aranea right now, when I think of the majority of people wanting to pull for Aranea, I think about what's coming out in the future. I think about what's going to have the most impact on players' accounts, what's going to have the least impact. And it's hard for me to recommend Aranea right now when I know that Joom and Setia are around the corner and Aranea is going to struggle against those compositions, right? It would be like trying to recommend, you know, Varouche, for example. Trying to recommend Varouche with Halloween Leela EX coming. Like, we all knew Leela EX was gonna be coming. It was hard to recommend him knowing that Leela EX was gonna be coming and kind of basically doing his job. So it's just one of those situations where Aranea is an amazing unit. She's a waifu. I'm pulling her for her waifu and her aesthetic, but practically, I don't think she's going to do much for the future. Now, there is an essence to this conversation where I could be wrong, and probably the big question and the big impact here would be focused around Christmas units. So we don't know what the Christmas units are going to be this year. It's quite possible we could get a third Ice Pierce Christmas unit. It's possible we could get a Ice Vision card or Ice Oriented Vision card to make Ice extremely viable, where maybe you would run Aranea. These are all possibilities. Do I think they're going to happen? I actually think there is a possibility that we do get like another global exclusive unit, specifically from the Brave Exvius world, because it's been a while since we've gotten a Brave Exvius specific unit. So I could quite easily see Christine coming out this winter. I could see White Knight Knoll coming out this winter. You know, I could see, gosh, any number of Brave Exvius Christmas units, or even Nicole, right? Nicole could come out. You know, winter, Christmas Medina is another thing I was thinking about. Like, there's so many potentials for, you know, ice units in this Christmas. I think that is one factor you should consider if you are like an ice main composition. And then you kind of have to factor in, well, are they going to be better than Aranea? Are you still just going to run Ice Slash instead? Like, these are all things to think about. It's just one of those situations where I don't see Aranea impacting people. I don't see her Vision card being particularly impactful either, especially considering we have Starlight Trist, which, I mean, power level wise comparison, like Ice Slash is so much stronger in global than it was in JP. And even then, you know, we're not seeing much Ice Slash in JP, I feel like. We might with the new Warrior of Crystal. We do have the Ice Warrior of Crystal coming out. So I guess one thing to consider this week would be to look at the Ice Warrior of Crystal's abilities and stats and ask yourself, is this going to work really well with Aranea? If we get a Vision card coming out on JP that pairs with the Ice Warrior of Crystal that gives Dexterity plus 35%, absolutely, critical hit rate Aranea could be 100% viable. But that's kind of the only thing I'm going to be looking at right now in terms of, should it happen? Would I recommend it? And right now, I just can't recommend it for the majority of you. So thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. I hope to see you on stream tonight. I will be pulling for Aranea because, again, waifu. But yeah, if you guys want to support me, you can use my affiliate link, dig.gs/coins. Please leave a comment. I love it when you guys leave comments. It makes my day when I wake up and I check them. So yeah, thank you so much, everybody, and see you guys next time.